Hey everybody, Peter Kaiser here again, here to walk you through external protocol in Spyder. As usual, we're joined by Joel Terensky and Jason Wines. Actually, Jason is going to be doing the presentation today and walking through his presentation and doing all the demos. So with that, I see we've got some people coming in. Yeah. So tell you what, with that, Jason, we'll let you take it away.
All right. Thanks, Peter. So yeah, guys, I'm Jason Wines, sales engineer for our image processing and solutions team. I've been working with the Spyder group for better part of a decade, I'd say. I've done a lot of fixed installations throughout that time, and had a lot of opportunity to really get into the API. I encourage Peter and Joel to jump in on the the webinar here at any time if I've missed something, or if there's an important question that you want to ask during the webinar. And yeah, hey, thanks for joining us. There's a lot of webinars that are out there, as Peter says, and we're happy to have you on ours. Okay, so here's the agenda that I'm going to go through. I'm going to show you where the documentation is, where you can get that. We're gonna go over what the API is and the applications for API. How do you access the API, and how do you use it, how you dial it up. I'm going to show you, 5 or so of the most used and useful commands in the API. I'll show you briefly a few of the advanced commands that are helpful. Then we're going to go into the Spyder Studio offline remoting server, and what that allows you to do is to turn your Spyder client actually into a Spyder server. That way you can send commands to it. And once you turn that on directly within Spyder Studio, even in Vista Advanced, we have a protocol tester. So then you can test your commands out on your configuration. And then we're going to go into talk about Widget Designer, and also then I'll give you some kind of live demo and sort of bring all that stuff and tie it together, and then we'll take some questions, right? So let's get into it. So you can download the Spyder API documentation in the handout section here of the webinar. Peter uploaded that for us this afternoon. You can get the documents on christiedigital.com, or feel free to email us if you can't find those documents in any of those places, and we'll be happy to send those out to you. Right. So what is the Spyder API? So Spyder API is basically a machine language used to execute functions from third-party devices, control systems, AMX and Crestron, DNF Shotbox. They have a pretty cool product that'll control the Spyder. That's real simple to use. They use these a lot of times in broadcast environments. They'll give them to the talent so they can switch between the presets on the Spyder, right? Broadcast switchers, right? We'll talk a little bit more about this in the protocol section, but you can control the Spyder directly from broadcast switchers. X keys have button panels that are pretty interesting to use. Our friends at HRS Controls have some really interesting control devices and boxes that are super affordable, and you can check out their website. There's plenty of software applications that are out there. AV presets is one of them that's typically used in live events, and more. I mean, literally anything that can send out a UDP command can control the Spyder. It's a completely open API, right? We also have our Widget Designer. So Widget Designer is part of our Pandora's Box media server product, and it's you can use this as a standalone product. It's very, very powerful, and we'll get into that a little bit deeper. So all of these devices you're gonna use after you've actually configured your Spyder. So you'll do the original the main configuration. You'll set up your command keys or your presets and your function keys and your treatments and that sort of stuff. And then any of these devices can recall and execute those functions from the Spyder itself, right? So fixed installs is a very common place that you'll use the Spyder API, right? Control systems, again, with touchscreens. It's going to control the presets and maybe switching sources into video windows and that sort of thing. Broadcast TV. There's a pretty broad range of the way that they like to control it, from touchscreens and again the switcher. So they do some automation. Live events. The API is used pretty extensively. Folks will get all of their looks and all of that put together, and they'll use something like the X keys or even our montage console. Which is discontinued. There's still tons of them out there. Our owner operators still use that device. Even lighting consoles. So like a Grand MA or something like that can send out API commands and yeah, control the Spyder. House of Worship is another place that they use the API quite extensively, right? So the House of Worship will typically have a kind of a mixed bag of technicians, where you'll have very technical folks, or they'll have volunteers that'll come in and run the Spyder. Those volunteers may not be completely trained up on how to use Spyder Studio, so they'll just give them a subset of buttons that they can press, right? You can also use the API for interactive and automation applications. This is quite common in, say, a museum application where the Spyder is controlling a whole lot of different screens. You can have a relay switch or something like that, trip a command key preset and activate the API that way, right? So moving on to how to access the Spyder API. So a couple of ways. So IP, so over your network, you can send out a UDP packet to port 11.11.6, and when you're doing it that way, you're going to need to send this Spyder header so that the Spyder knows that that you're sending it a command directly after that. So it's a 10-character header, SPYDER, and then it's a hex character for null, null, null. This is a common header for something like Crestron, or even in our own network function keys would use this header. Your mileage may vary on that header. Widget Designer uses a slightly different version of how they'll register a null hex character, but usually it's pretty easy to get that sorted out, right? There's also RS-232. So there's COM ports that are on the back of the Spyder. There's 3 of them. If you go into the Spyder Studio software, you can go to server and frame configuration. In your properties panel, you can define which COM port and then the baud rate and that sort of thing that you want the Spyder to listen to. So RS-232 is fairly common in fixed installs. It's kind of going away. Pretty much IP is taking over all of that. One of these options in the protocol for the RS-232 is serial VDCP, or video disk control protocol. This is a pretty old protocol that's been around for ages and ages and ages, but it's still pretty embedded in the broadcast world. So things like, ROS broadcast switchers. They can talk VDCP. A lot of these broadcast switchers sometimes don't have very robust, let's say, IP protocol to send out UDP packets, but they have a whole list of VDCP protocols, so you can easily interface with those devices that have VDCP. So that's a pretty unique option for the Spyder to listen to the API. We also have built into Spyder Studio and into Vista Advanced for the X20 a protocol tester, right? So that protocol tester is right there, ready and available. You can type in any of these commands and simply watch your Spyder perform that function. That way you can verify if it's working the way you expect it to, right? Network function keys. Within Spyder, we have function keys that provide several different tasks. Peter's done a webinar on those function keys previously, but we'll just talk about the network keys. And I can send any of these API commands directly to the Spyder using those function keys. Those function keys you can also use to control any device that'll listen to either a UDP or a TCP packet over the network. So you can control, Christie projectors, for example. You can turn them on, turn them off, close or open the shutter, that sort of stuff, directly from within Spyder Studio or even Vista Advanced. So very, very powerful stuff. All of this stuff is built directly into to Spyder, yeah. So here's some of the most used commands, probably the most useful commands that you'll use, right? I'm going to go ahead and go into each of one of these in detail, right? One thing I did want to point out before you start using the Spyder API is that you want to remember that it's zero based. This is one thing that'll trip up beginners that are using the API, not realizing that that is zero based, and then there's a few other kind of qualifiers. So when we're talking about layer 1, that would be the Spyder video window number 1 that we're trying to control. Its ID is actually 2, right? ID number 0 and 1 are actually reserved for our background our background images, right? So the ID number for layer 1 starts at ID 2, right? So here is RSC, okay? So recall script queue is used to launch a command key. A command key is, in Spyder terms, it's a preset, right? So within that, this command, the syntax is, you'll send your Spyder header, right? And then RSC, and then the next argument here is going to be this script, and that's going to be the ID of that command key, okay? And there's really 2 IDs for a command key that you can use, right? And that's actually this third argument here, where the default for this RSC command is going to be the hard-coded ID number, right? So every time I create a command key, it'll hard-code an ID, starts at 0, and just sequentially goes along for however many command keys that you make. Now, within Spyder Studio or Vista Advanced, those command keys are sitting on a grid, and you can move them around anywhere that you want to in that grid. Now, the hard-coded script ID for that command key, it never changes, right? So it doesn't matter where you move it in that grid, it'll always trigger that command key. However, in fixed installs, it's a good idea just to use the registry ID. So the registry ID is essentially that position on the command key grid. You'll see kind of more of a visual of that when we get into the demo that I have here for you. But but so the top left corner is going to be 0, and then the next one to that's going to be 1, you know, ID 2, 3, 4, and so on down the list. The benefit of using that registry ID over the script ID is that you can just simply go into Spyder Studio or Vista Advanced, create a new command key, and then place it into that slot on the grid. And then any of your cross-drawn commands now will just reference that new command key, right? Another thing that we do with those fixed installs is, you know, we typically there you go in and you have a set of presets or, you know, looks that that the customer has asked for, but then they may want to go in and build other looks. So we can leave slots open for them to put custom command keys in, right? That way there's no cross-drawn programming. You can just go into the Spyder GUI and easily create a new command key, put it in that slot, and now it'll just work on your touch panel. So that's a really handy thing for fixed installs, right? So RSC is, you know, the #1, I would say, API command that you're going to want to use. BTR. So BTR is going to mix your background still images. So within Spyder, you can load still images into your pixel spaces, into both your program and your preview, and then you can cycle through them, right? So again, back to fixed installs, a lot of times we'll have, you know, let's say the company's logo is on one side of that, and then the other side is black. You know, using backgrounds that's a logo or have any kind of words on them usually is not a great idea, because if you have that logo on and then you have some look with, you know, 2 video windows next to each other and you just see part of that logo in between, it can kind of look messy. So we can switch to that, you know, say black or whatever, you know, generic cloud background or something along those lines. And again, down here you'll see the syntax that you'll use, right? So this is the Spyder header. There's a space here. It depends on what software that you're using. You probably don't want this space in here. Usually the command is butted right up. I spaced it out so that you can kind of see the command a little bit better. But Spyder header, BTR, and then the second delimiter here is going to be how long it takes to transition that background, right? So this is in frames. So typically the Spyder is set up at 60 frames per second. So BTR 60 is going to transition that background in about 1 second. We can cut that down to 30 or even to one frame and just literally have a cut, right? Okay. So the next one here, right? This is ICR, right? So ICR is used to force a layer to auto-sync to a source. Sometimes in fixed installations, you know, you'll have a laptop input, and if that laptop input isn't scaled or it changes resolutions, the Spyder may not understand that the resolution has changed, so it thinks that it's the old resolution. So you can put a force auto sync either on the touch panel button, or anytime somebody goes to that laptop source, it'll automatically push that auto sync. You know, nowadays it's becoming less relevant as the sources are a little bit more normalized, right? And again, you'll see here the syntax is going to be ICR, the configuration ID, right? So this configuration ID, if you set it to -1, it'll force that auto sync, right? And then you tell it which layer you want to force that auto sync to, right? And then you have the option of telling it which connector type that you want to sync to that layer, right? So that is the the AutoSync command. And our last one here is going to be KTR. And KTR is used to recall a treatment. So in Spyder, we have a special panel that we can create what we call treatments. Those treatments are basically keyframes, right, of a video layer. So that can be, you know, a border or a drop shadow or aspect ratio or the size of the video layer or the position of it on your pixel space or a combination of all of those. So you can go in and program those treatments, and they're super handy for quickly making layouts as you're programming. But it's also great to be able to sort of on the fly call up those treatments when you need to, and I'll show you an example of that during my demo as well. So here's just some other advanced commands, I guess, that you may not typically use. ARO, again, this one is the aspect ratio offset. This is starting to become a little bit less relevant as well. Back in the day when we had, we still had 4:3 sources, and we had 16:9 sources and 16:10 sources, and all of these different aspect ratios that are coming in. It could mess up your layout, where you're going from a 16:9 aspect ratio and you go to a 4:3, and all of a sudden it jumps outside of your pixel space. This will help you actually force that aspect ratio. You're going to squish things, but maybe it's better to have it squished than have it off the screen. It's just an option. ASC is advanced script queue. So within Spyder command keys, right? The reason that they're not just called presets is that command keys actually have the ability to create an entire script. So I can go from Q1 and my video windows are in this position to Q2, my video windows are now, in a different position, and you can write an entire sort of timeline directly within any of your command keys. So ASC will allow you to advance that script or go to the previous queue. We have LAC, so layer alignment control. So there's 20 or more different layer alignment controls that you can take a layer and snap it to the left or snap it to the right of the pixel space, and all sorts of things in between. That can be handy in some situations. Layer size and position is a really awesome one. So that's going to move your video window right to an absolute position within your pixel space, right? You can send this LSP command several times in a row, and we've actually created within Widget Designer a touch panel where you can hold your finger on a video layer on a monitor and move that layer around, right? So there is an example of an installation where it's in a sports book that the Crestron programmer actually programmed that onto the touch panel. So you have basically a bartender can actually move around the video layers. They don't have to get into the actual Spyder software, right? OCM is output configuration output configuration mode. So you can change the mode of an output. So the Spyder X80 in particular has several different modes that you can use on your outputs. So in order to sort of maximize your resources, you might have an output that's set up as a multi-viewer for one moment, and then you can change that to, say, an aux mode, right? Or even put it into normal mode, so it's looking at the pixel space, or put it into our scaled output mode where I can look at the entire pixel space. If it's multiple monitors or multiple display arrays or LED, I can look at just that one pixel space on a single monitor. So that can be useful. There's also request commands. So these requests, there's 20 or more of them. Basically, I can ping the Spyder and say, hey Spyder, how many video layers are on the screen right now? Or I can ask the Spyder to return to me the names of all of the sources, right? So in using these kind of request commands, fixed installs, again, you can really make a dynamic sort of a real-time monitor on your touch panel to do all sorts of interesting things. Say you recall a layout and then you want to change the source that's in one of those video windows. You can do that with the API, and then you can call to the Spyder and say, hey Spyder, what source is in that window? And then you can put that text up on your touch panel, so it makes it really dynamic, right? So within Spyder Studio, right, there's a special mode that's called local remoting server. So this is what lets you turn your Spyder client into an actual Spyder server offline. So you can do all your programming offline and actually do your testing of your program offline and those API commands, so that you're sure that those commands are going to do what you expect them to do. It's a great tool, and some of you may not have known this is there because it's a bit hidden. You have to turn on the super secret debugging menu, right? So you go to the tools panel, and tools options will open up the options panel on the right hand side of Spyder Studio, the properties panel. And in the advanced panel, you dig all the way down to the bottom and you'll see show debugging menu. And then you just put that little checkbox there. You'll get this debugging menu item. Now it'll show up. Click on that and you'll see start remoting server. And once you actually click this one time on your client, it'll always stay up there in the corner. It's just off by default. And then you'll see that you can click and connect to your own local PC as a server. So that's a super handy thing to have. And I'll show you exactly why you want to do that. It's a slightly different process to enable this in Vista Advanced. I'm not going to go into that in depth here, but also in the handout section of this webinar, Peter was kind enough to create a video, how-to video to step through those steps, and you can get it there. And there's also a link to download that video, and we can send that link out to you. Just shoot us an email. So once you have that local remoting server started, what that's going to allow you to do now is go in and use the Spyder Protocol Tester, right? or even the network function keys. And this is completely offline. You don't even need to be connected to a Spyder. Obviously, if you are connected directly to a Spyder, you wouldn't need the local remoting server. But I don't have a Spyder here for my demo, so I'm going to turn on that local remoting server and show you some of this stuff live here in a moment. But that protocol tester allows you to send those commands. You have to enable the remoting server, and you don't need the Spyder header. You can just simply send the API command directly to the Spyder to get this started. So that's located under Tools, and then UDP Protocol Tester, and that'll bring this up in your Properties panel, where you're going to type in the IP address of your Spyder, or in this case, it's the local IP address because we started that up locally. Connect to it, and then I can go ahead and type my command in that I want to execute and hit the send button, and the Spyder will do that command. Another really useful way, or helpful way, I should say, to test commands to any device is network function keys. So this will allow you to send commands to any device on your network, not just the Spyder. And I'll show you that a little bit more in depth during the demo. We'll do that. Also, I'm going to show you a little Widget Designer user interface that I created for this webinar. So Widget Designer, if you're not aware of it, definitely take a look at our Pandora's Box website. Widget Designer is extremely powerful. All sorts of interactive and automated functions that you can program with this. I mean, it's on the level of programming, cross-drawn interfaces, but it's a lot simpler. It's its own programming language that's been built from the ground up from our team in Germany. It's a great program. And they're doing a lot of webinars right now as well on Widget Designer. So if you're interested in that, I highly would say jump on those. There's a bunch of them that are already recorded on our YouTube channel. Go check those out. So the paid version of Widget Designer gives you the ability to use nodes, and nodes are kind of this logic programming within Widget Designer. The Spyder node has been added to Widget Designer to help you easily program API commands. So this is just kind of an example of what it looks like within Widget Designer while you're programming it. You just kind of go in and give it the information of where your Spyder is on the network, and then once it knows that, you can come into the programming within your user interface. You put up custom buttons, and then I can just simply type Spyder dot, and once I hit Spyder dot, this list will pop up, and these are all those API commands that we've been going over. They'll populate. You select the appropriate API command, and then it'll even help you with the syntax going through there. So you can see here that I have, it says Spyder.recall script queue, and then 1,1. So that's gonna launch my command key number 1 to queue number 1, right? There's a free version of Widget Designer, which is also very, very awesome. You can do a whole lot with just the free version. What you don't get with the free version is that logic-based programming, but there's still lots of things to be used in the free version. So you can go in and set up a UDP connection in the free version, and then you can actually send the same command through that UDP. It's just a little bit more programming that you have to do. You UDP send, and then you have to send the Spyder header, and then you can send the API command that you want to send. And it's more of a programming language as opposed to how you can use this logic based. But either way, very, very helpful. All right. So if we don't have any questions, or if you think I missed something, I'm going to jump right into this demo. I'm already 40 some odd minutes in, so I'm going to try to quickly go through this. Guys, any questions that we want to cover before I jump into the demo?
No questions been posted, so cruise on in.
Cool. All right. So, well, thank you, Peter. So this is a real simple Spyder Studio configuration that I put together. We have 4 sources or so, 3 UHD screens. I've built a few command keys here. Basically, I have look a couple of different looks that just kind of move these sources around, right? And I can also bring up pips or bring pips back down, that sort of thing, and clear off the entire screen back here. You know, I can mix my background, right? That's that mixed background that I was talking about. And so let's get into the API portion of it, right? So up here under tools, oh, sorry, let me show you the remoting server, right? So I showed you basically how to turn this super secret menu on, but you just come up here and hit, you know, start local remoting server, and then you can come into your connection manager and make sure that you're connected. And you'll see here that my local IP matches my server IP because it's local, right? Once you have that turned on, I can come under tools, tools, and then UDP Protocol Tester, and then back over here in my properties panel, you're going to set your IP address of the Spyder and make sure you connect to that, right? And then once you're connected to it, you can type in your command. Here I've already typed in RSC3 _1 /R, right? So what does that command say? Going back to what we discussed earlier, right? RSC is going to be recall script queue, right? So that's going to launch one of my command keys. It's going to launch command key ID number 3, right? And since I have an R at the end, that's going to use the registry, right? So if you're looking at the registry up here, this is the position. And remember, since we're 0 based, this clear is ID 0, not 1. Look 1 is ID 1. 2 is ID 2. 2, yeah. And look 3 is going to be ID 3. So when I send this command, it's going to launch this command key, right? So there you go. Launches it up onto the screen, right? I can go ahead and clear this off, right? Whoops, that dropped me out of the protocol tester. But I can also come in and say, you know, BTR, and that's my background transition. I can say BTR 30, and that's going to make a faster transition, or I can even go in and say, you know, BTR 1, right? And that's going to basically make a cut for me, right? So that's the protocol tester. The next thing I'll show you is those function keys. So these are the command keys or my presets. I come down here to my function keys tab. I've already created a few of these network function keys, but in my function keys, I have a list of function keys that I can set up. This is just my network command function key. If I select this function key in the properties window, you can see its properties, right? So this is the name of it. This is the IP address that I want to send this command to. In this case, it's my local IP address. Again, port 11.11.6 is what the Spyder is going to listen on, and the Spyder listens to UDP commands. You can change this to a TCP command for other devices besides the Spyder, but the network function key, it has a lot of different uses. Like I was saying, you know, powering on and off devices, and really anything that'll listen to a UDP or TCP command on your network, you can control, and then you can actually stick these commands into your command keys. So when you launch your command keys, it'll also send out that command. So very, very, very handy stuff. So this one in particular, again, this has my Spyder header, right? The header, and then followed by my RSC or my recall script queue command. So RSC _3, again, I have my R delimiter here, which means that it's going to be my registry number on my command key page, and then to launch queue number 1. So I can go ahead and click that guy, and you'll see that it's launched that third command key again, right? So that's a quick look at the network function keys. So I'll move on quickly here to show you my little widget designer GUI. So this is Widget Designer, and I've created a Spyder node here, and in that node, it's basically referencing my local remoting server over here. I've come in and I've programmed command keys. So these are all my command keys on the user interface. I sort of walk through that on those slides, but now I'm connected and I can simply click any of these. So this is a super clean way to hand say non-technical users a way to control the Spyder, right? So here's my look 1 and here's my look 2, right? I can say bring my pips on the screen or bring my pips off the screen. I could do some advanced cues and that sort of stuff. And then below that here, I have my treatments, right? So you can see over in Spyder Studio, I've created a few different treatments in here that I can apply to any of my video layers that I have on the screen, right? The red border, a yellow border, a special purple border. That's a call out to Victor Vettorello, who loves purple borders. I also set up a move size and position of these guys, and I'll kind of show you what that all how that all works in the treatment. So I have my layer number 1, my layer number 2, my layer number 3 here in program. So I can say, okay, give layer number 1 a red border, there it is. Give layer number 2 a red border and layer number 3 a red border. Now we want to maybe go through my yellow borders or mix anything in between there, right? And then I can instantly, say, okay, apply my center position to layer number 1, and then that'll go ahead and move that. So, this is a pretty simplistic way of looking at, or I'm sorry, a simplistic program to show you sort of the main features of how to control the Spyder, and it's powerful and quite simple to do once you've kind of been introduced to it. So that's pretty much my story. So go ahead and open it up to any questions that folks might have, or any things that I may have missed, Peter. Or
no, I mean,
Joel?
Again, I think the lack of questions that are the absence of questions say that you've covered the topic very well.
Awesome.
Yeah, there are so many different ways for triggering and controlling Spyder that is literally any device that can send out that command, Spyder can receive it. And it's just there's a litany of third-party products, but we also have this amazing widget designer that's so versatile that can control literally anything, almost anything, right? So I don't know if Joel has anything else to add. Oh, now the questions start popping in.
Yeah, I mean, just to make sure, if you ever need any assistance, that Jason, Peter, and I are there to help with these arguments and commands. This is what we do, and so you can get, if you're not digging and doing a deep dive in that manual, sometimes you can just bypass a simple little thing, and it can save you some time if you just reach out to us.
Yeah, there's 2 quick questions about Widget Designer. Is it a separate program or is it built into Studio? It is definitely a separate program. There is a free version that has a lot of the functionality, but like Jason indicated, the paid version really kind of simplifies some of the programming and kind of auto-fills those commands in there as well.
But it's definitely worth checking out the free version. There's a ton that you can do on that. And you can find that at the website is coolux.de, right? I don't think we have a different website.
Yes.
coolux.de. It's a great program.
Yep. So that was pretty much it. A couple questions about widget. Somebody asking if the commands are in the on a document. We have those attached to the handout section, and you can also download them from the website. Just email any of us, we can get those to you if you can't find those there. And yeah, so I think that's pretty much it, Joel.
Yeah.
Joel, Jason, great job, Jason. That was awesome. Like I said, the lack of questions is a testament to the quality of the presentation. Cool. So this will be a recording on the Christie YouTube page as well. So you can look for that in the next 24 to 48 hours. Usually it takes about that kind of turnaround. See, now the questions start to trickle in. Can you use Widget Designer to create APIs for other equipment?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would say definitely get involved in that same YouTube Let's Learn channel from Christie. There's got to be close to 30 different Pandora videos that were recorded. So definitely get in there and dive into those. Get on the user group for both the Christie Video Processor user group at Facebook. There's a Pandora version of the same one, and they post those webinars when they're going to come up, so you can catch them live and ask questions, or you can always catch the recording after. So anyway, thanks guys. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to all of us, or any one of us, or directly to support as well. So we're all here to help you, and thanks again for joining us.